Enemy unleashed, you have to admit, when you saw my boy Gang Orca pour a bottle of water on his head to proceed to walk out of the fiery tornado that Inasa and Todoroki made, you have to admit that this man jumped up into one of your favorite characters, because that's some ballsy stuff, just walking through fire like that and really just pouring water on his head. Not with just like a water cork, but just a freaking bottle of water. That's awesome. Finally, a new episode of My Hero Academia has arrived, and with it, it continues the events of the exam. This episode is very heavy and has a lot of hidden meaning. And personally, I've been looking forward to this episode ever since this arc began. And the reason for it is because this really showcases the effect Endeavor has on, you know, his fan base, or people that watch him, look up to him. That's what this episode was really about, and this part of the series of My Hero Academia was really trying to let us know, is that this was the complete opposite of what All Might has done throughout the series, and let me get into that. As we know, All Might as a character, before he fell from grace and he's no longer the symbol of peace after his fight with All for One, he was someone that was an icon. He was this symbol that everybody looked up to. Someone that, you know, would inspire countless heroes to come out and want to be what All Might is. Izuku is a good example. He was inspired by All Might. And we can see that All Might has had a major impact on hero society. He has created countless other heroes. And that was always what All Might was about. When he smiled, people wanted to copy him, you know, have that signature smile. You know, Izuku wants to do that. He wants to smile. I mean, the entire opening of each individual episode basically says Izuku wants to smile as a hero. So, we know what All Might's all about. We know what he has done since the beginning of this series. And this episode wanted to show us what Endeavor has done for the new generation of heroes. As we know, Endeavor, he is a good hero. He's good at his job, but he is not someone that I could say should be qualified to be labeled as a hero. What I mean is, even though he has the credentials, even though he has the license, he is technically a hero, doesn't mean he's a good hero, because what he wants, his ambitions, wanting to surpass All Might, wanting to just throw everything away, not looking at anything just to achieve his own goal, it's pretty cruel and messed up, and so Endeavor's never really been that good of a guy. We know how he treated his family, how he treated Todoroki, what happened to Todoroki's mother. We know all about that, and it's horrific when you really think about what Endeavor has done. But we also see what effect Endeavor has had on people that have looked up to him. We get to see from Inasa's perspective in this episode. Another character that's not Todoroki that actually looked up to Endeavor at one point, or at the very least has had some form of contact with Endeavor. Inasa was a fan. It's clear-cut, easy to understand that he was a fan of Endeavor, very similar to how Izuku and Bakugo are a fan of All Might. He was someone that basically looked up to Endeavor like an idol. He wanted to, go up to his idols like, hey, could you give me your autograph? And Endeavor just slapped it away, and then basically he's like, get out of my way, you're in the way, or whatever, and he continued to march forward. Now, at first glance, this seems very petty. It looks very petty from Inasa to be that upset about, his idol not really wanting to write a signature now. I mean, yes, it would be hurtful. It would hurt really badly if someone you looked up to just straight up just slapped you away. It's like, get out of my way, you're in my way. It would hurt you. Let's not deny that. But at the same time, it is petty just to get as, butthurt as he is throughout the entirety of this arc. But still, there is a bigger point to what this means. Endeavor, the way he acted in public and how he treated the people that looked up to him led a very bad example. Remember what Izuku's mother said, okay, at the end of All for One and All Might's fight. When she was talking to All Might and she was talking to Izuku, she's like, I respect you as the #1 hero, someone that has saved all of us, someone that has stood up and defended all of us for we can, go day by day, be happy, be safe. She was very happy for All Might's service. But then she also said to All Might, you're not a really good example. As someone that will literally push yourself to that extent to break your body to pieces, it's not a good example for the next generation to do something like that, which we've seen how Izuku, he's demonstrated these similar traits. He's broken his body time and time again to the point where now he can barely use his arms. So, I mean, All Might was never really that good of an example for the next generation. I mean, he was he had proper charisma. He was someone that had the proper personality, but he was not someone that was really good at, showing an example of how far you should go to be a hero. Like, break your body to the point where you can no longer move or even save your own self. She didn't like that, and that's always been a flaw with All Might's character. And Izuku's kind of had that similar trait that he's trying to overcome at this point. Now, Endeavor, his example is he does play it safe. He doesn't break his body continuously like, let's say, someone like All Might or Izuku. But Endeavor, in terms of what he is, he lacks the great personality. He lacks this kind personality that inspires people to want to be a hero. Endeavor's way of reacting to Inasa and shoving him away, in turn, caused someone that was very much like Endeavor. See, Endeavor, his entire personality, he's driven by All Might. He wants to surpass All Might. And it's a whole other can of worms now that, he's now #1 hero by default because of what happened to All Might, which that's a whole nother topic for a whole other day, which I will eventually get into when the anime comes to it. Endeavor has always looked at All Might. He's never looked at anything in front of him, and because of what he did to Inasa, shoving him away like he did, Inasa became the very thing that he disliked. For instance, Endeavor. He looked at Endeavor with hatred in his eyes, wanting to just completely shun him and never accept him as a hero. That is how Inasa felt about Endeavor, and that is what Endeavor has done, causing people to go down the wrong path, doing the wrong decisions. And this is the same thing that can be said for Todoroki within this episode as well. It wasn't just Inasa, but Todoroki as well that also experienced this harboring hatred within him that he viewed for his father. See, we know Todoroki's past. We know how he feels about his father. We know this was something that he's tried to overcome. I mean, he's taken many steps to overcome this. I mean, Izuku woke him up, and he's tried to overcome it. He's gotten used to be able to use his fire side, but even though he has gotten used to that, he's talked to his mother, he still hasn't completely gotten over his father and let go of the hatred that he feels towards him. And so, he's still trying to overcome that. But that hatred that burns within him is blinding him. It's making it to where he doesn't notice his surroundings, notice the people around him, which, once again, he's going down a very similar path as Endeavor. He is setting a bad example, which in turn is the reason why Inasa did not like Todoroki, because of how similar they were, and Todoroki became the very thing that he hated and didn't want to be like. It's very funny. Like, usually this is how true stories really are. You know how there's, like, usually a child that looks at their mother or father, and they're like, I don't want to be like you, I don't want to turn out like you, but then years pass, and they realize that they're in the exact same position as their parents were. It really is very similar to that. What was happening within this episode is that Todoroki came to the realization that he was just like his father, and he has no right to really put down his father until he can get over his own personal hatred and let it go. So that is the great part about this episode, really kind of exposing Todoroki as a character, but also Inasa, and they're realizing their faults and trying to work to overcome it. And that was great. I really love the way they tried to overcome that. And that entire scene when Todoroki's theme song started to play, when the music played, you see Gang Orca is like, oh, I really like this, combination that you guys are doing with the fire and wind. Just an amazing scene overall. But what really sold that scene for me is the message it also has that connects to Endeavor as well. And there's one thing I've been doing throughout this video. I have been putting down Endeavor a lot. I've been saying that he's a bad example. But there's one thing that they did kind of similar to him, but was actually kind of a good thing, was that Endeavor has this endless passion to kind of never give up. Endeavor has constantly struggled and struggled and struggled to try to make it to All Might's position. I mean, if you remember back into the fight with All For One and All Might, you had Endeavor actually look at All Might and it's like, when I see your back, I see, what you're doing right now, the gap is massive, and you see, like, the chasm just right below him that, disconnects him from All Might, which was a really beautiful scene to show just how much Endeavor struggles, but he realizes he's probably never going to be able to catch up to the monster that was All Might. And that's kind of what Todoroki and Inasa did. They were struggling in that moment. When they were on the ground not being able to do anything, they were struggling. They did not want to go down. They did not want to give up. They were fighting for their very lives. They were fighting for, what they believed in. I loved the way that scene was done. It was a good representation of how there was good traits they had of Endeavor, but also bad traits as well. And so I just like that. I like how this episode really depicts how Todoroki and Inasa became the very thing that they hated to the very core of their being. But okay, let's talk about, the fight in general. So Inasa and Todoroki, They dislike each other, obviously. Now, they kind of try to work together towards the end of the episode. We don't really know if they made up or worked it out, but at the very least, they tried to work together towards the end. But they argued majority of this episode, and it was a really bad show of how they're not really worthy of being a hero at this time. Let's look at the exact details of this exam, okay? Let's look at it if this was a real event, okay? Like, this was a real villain attack on a city, okay? Let's say that this legit was real. Like, Gang Orca was a legit villain, and he was attacking. What they did within this episode was absolutely unacceptable. Them arguing in front of a villain and then actually messing each other's attacks up and just letting their anger get in front of them and blind them to anything else, and they literally almost hurt one of their own comrades, that's despicable. That's something that is not acceptable at all. At all. I'm sorry. I don't care who you are. If Izuku did it, I would say that's not acceptable at all. You're not worthy of being a hero at this time until you correct those flaws, those problems, and they messed up. Big time. It's very disappointing to see how they were blinded by their anger, their hatred, but it also serves to be a very good point for their character development, allowing them to grow and move past these problems that's happened in their past. But here's the big part about this, though. With their argument, it makes you wonder, did they pass the exam? Will they pass the exam? Because from the description of the test, like, we got a little bit more details, is that the test, you start off with 100 points. And because of your actions throughout the test, your points slowly start to go down. But it seems like, judging by the way the test was described, your points don't really go back up. For instance, if, let's say, I did something and my points went down to, let's say, 90% out of 100, I could never make that back up and go back to 100. Like, that's not possible. Literally, when your points drop, they're stuck there. And if they continuously drop until they're below 50%, you fell. So that was the point of the exam, is that even though you do good in some areas, if you really mess up and you go below 50%, or you have accumulated points that just go down and down, well, you're done. Like, it's over. So, it makes you wonder, was that argument that Todoroki and Inasa, did that argument ruin their chances of getting their license, or did they just barely pass? That is the question, because you would assume, because of how they made up at the end, how they managed to kind of start working together, that maybe, you know, they can pass. They might have had enough time to be able to convince the judges and all that, you know, they're worthy enough to be a hero. That's the big question. Let's talk about Gang Orca for a second. So Gang Orca is a character, personally to me, that I love a lot. I really love Gang Orca. He's one of my personal favorites, which I have a lot of favorites when it comes to My Hero Academia, not gonna lie. I mean, if you watch my anime reviews and my manga chapter reviews, even if you just watch one or the other, you'll know I love quite a bit of characters. There's honestly not that many characters I actually dislike. Like, I really like majority of the cast, even the side characters of My Hero Academia. And Gang Orca is one of those type of characters that I just really freaking love. It's because his design is so, like, okay, his design is kind of simple, but it's so impressively done. Like, the way Horikoshi went in on Gang Orca's design, you can see that he put a lot of care into it, even though it is simplistic. I just love the Orca design, to the way his eyes are drawn, just everything about his costume, or his outfit, looks insanely good. And you can just see that Horikoshi really does love Gang Orca's design quite a bit, just because of how he's expressed it throughout, you know, the anime and even in the manga. So yes, he's one of my favorite characters, and I was glad to finally see him animated in, you know, this episode, and just like, yo, they did him justice. They did him really well, and I'm just very happy that Studio Bones continues to impress me with their quality adaptation of My Hero Academia. Anime Only, these upcoming events are going to be freaking amazing, and it's going to be a great way to kind of conclude My Hero Academia Season 3 and set up perfectly for Season 4. So I want to end this video here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.